is David OLeary. I'm the chapter chair for the Maryland chapter of the Sierra Club. Thank you for the opportunity to offer these comments. I will echo some of the comments that were presented earlier and try to add a little perspective specific to Maryland. Nuclear waste is a problem without a solution, and we really do not have an answer. So, to some extent, the overall premise of how do we move forward is certainly a big challenge. We obviously have not identified a centralized repository site, and there isn't a clear path to identify one, and certainly not a path to identify the likely need for more than one, given the volume of our existing waste. Centralized or consolidated storage in temporary sites would involve significant waste handling and thousands of trips moving waste, certainly, and just inherently increasing the likelihood of the various kinds of accidents. In Maryland, we're particularly concerned about environmental impacts, including water contamination in the Susquehanna River, or our treasured Chesapeake Bay from the reactors at Calvert Cliffs, Peach Bottom, and the other reactors throughout the watershed. Again, going back to the transport issue, we have concerns, Calvert Cliffs and its location. This is true of other reactors around the country, but using Calvert Cliffs as an example. Transporting that waste would bring it past major metropolitan areas like Washington, D.C., and there really are no other obvious ways to move that waste around. I also agree that we shouldn't avoid addressing our existing waste storage problems, and as was suggested before, on-site storage seems to be really the best answer. However, rather than pressing forward, we really need to not continue with publishing a rule that enables the creation of not only more and more of this waste, but also more dangerous waste. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And we've heard from David Jonas England.
Thanks, Chip, and good afternoon. I'm Ellen Ginsberg. I serve as Vice President and General Counsel of the Nuclear Energy Institute. NEI's members include all operating reactor licensees. We very much appreciate the opportunity to offer comments, and I'm doing so on behalf of NEI and its members. I'd first like to address the NRC's question in the Federal Register notice about whether the title of the rule should be changed. NEI strongly supports discontinuing using the term waste confidence. It's a historical artifact, and it doesn't provide any useful description of the agency's analysis and conclusions on repository availability and the continued safe and environmentally sound storage of used fuel. In fact, the term waste confidence simply derives from the Commission's statement dating from the late 1970s that as a matter of policy, the NRC would not continue to license reactors if it did not have a reasonable confidence that waste can and will in due course be disposed of safely. Although the record amply supports a continued finding of reasonable confidence that safe disposal will become available, there is much confusion about that to which the term refers. To avoid the confusion and the mischaracterizations that the term waste confidence seems to engender, we strongly recommend that the rule be retitled something along the lines, storage of spent nuclear fuel for the period after licensed term of reactor operation. Simple, straightforward, and descriptive. The GEIS should be similarly renamed. All of that notwithstanding, the agency has ample reason to have confidence and remain confident in the fact that a safe disposal option will become available and that continued storage can be accomplished in a safe and environmentally sound manner in the meantime. I'm going to focus my limited time on the issues related to spent fuel pools. I note that Appendix E of the draft GEIS provides a detailed discussion of the environmental impacts of spent fuel pool leaks during short-term storage timeframe. The draft GEIS describes the current regulatory regime to avoid and respond to spent fuel pool leaks, including the NRC's requirements and industry initiatives for groundwater monitoring and remediation of contaminated groundwater. Importantly, the NRC does not simply rely on its regulatory oversight to conclude that the environmental impacts of spent fuel pool leaks during the short-term timeframe will be small. The draft GEIS, in fact, discusses spent fuel pool design and maintenance, operational practices, site hydrogeological characteristics, and radionuclide transport properties to establish the agency's basis for concluding that there is a very low likelihood that an undetected leak from a spent fuel pool will migrate off-site. These considerations are all generic, and they obviate the need for site-specific assessments. Furthermore, in the unlikely event that a spent fuel pool leak were to migrate off-site, the draft GEIS assesses the potential for impacts on groundwater, surface water, soils, and public health using a bounding approach. Therefore, contrary to some of the views presented at this meeting and others, we believe there is ample support for the draft GEIS conclusions that the potential impacts involving spent fuel pool leaks will be small. There is much more to be said about why it's appropriate for the NRC to have conducted a generic review to meet its NEPA obligation. There is also much more to be said about how the draft GEIS sufficiently responds to the court's direction to consider spent fuel pool leaks and fires. Given the limited time for these statements, NEI will provide its additional comments on these matters in writing. Thank you very much for the opportunity, and we look forward to expressing our further views.
Thank you. Thank you.
My name is Regina Minis. I'm here on behalf of the Crab Shell Alliance, and this is what I have to say. Fukushima, the world's worst nuclear accident that will continue for centuries, just as the other nuclear accidents have, only this one being a triple meltdown, poses new challenges that none of the great engineers thought of, and some they should have. As the Earth is being reshifted, humans have not adjusted to new extremes upon us. With climate change inside our front door, the problems of nuclear energy will be augmented. It's great news that no new license or no new renewal of existing license will receive a final approval until the waste issue is addressed. As a first step towards dealing with this waste, this decision showed real leadership. But at least 12,000 tons of nuclear waste per year keeps accumulating from existing operating plants. The second step to dealing with the waste is to make the amount of nuclear waste finite. This is the time to show more leadership. The reality is, if a solution is found, we will still have it, and generation after generation will have to deal with a continued problem. To me, putting it in the ground is like adding dynamite to the interior of the Earth. This sets us up for internal pollution as well as external pollution that is from the normal operation of nuclear plants, which emit hundreds of thousands of curies of radioactive gases and elements into the environment every day. This is commonly known as burning the candle at both ends. If we continue business as usual, we are truly on the path to total destruction. This highly toxic energy destroys our air, water, food, soil, and gene pool of all living plants and animals. You will see children with tumors. A look on the internet of the children in Belarus will verify the long-term effects of nuclear energy. This is a site where parents cannot deal with their children from the Chernobyl accident. You will see children with tumors beyond imagination, tumors that are bigger than beach balls, showing up anywhere on their small bodies. Deformities so grotesque that you think you're looking at a horror film. But these are innocent children. Let's at least make the nuclear waste finite and begin aggressively pursuing truly green energy sources. Thank you.